Hello, thank you for stopping by. My name is Becky and this is Bex Reads, and today I am starting a new reading vlog. September is one of my sister's birthdays. I got quite a few family members with birthdays in September, but one of them is my sister who I actually live with. You've probably seen her in some of my reading vlogs, things like that. I thought what I would do is do a reading vlog featuring books with sister in the title, and then see if I could find any like similarities between the characters in the book with my sister. And I thought I would include like some footage of us celebrating her birthday, which is today. So happy birthday, sister. So the first book that I started reading for this was actually a book that my sister gave to me for Christmas, Valentine's Day, Easter, one of those holidays. It is called Sister Maiden Monster. I knew absolutely nothing about this book. It's pretty short, which is why I chose to start reading it. So I was able to find the audio book of this on Everend, so I am going to start listening to this and then I will share my thoughts once I make progress in it. Okay, well, I finished reading Sister Maiden Monster. This was disturbing. This is a horror that is centered around like a new pandemic. It takes place after COVID, but there's this new pandemic and people get this virus and they start coughing up blood, their eyes start bleeding, they start growing like these tumors on their body and whatnot. And some people can, be given meds and whatnot and somewhat rehabilitated from it, and other people die. And this book is split up into 3 sections. Each section follows a different like storyline, but they're all loosely interwoven until the end when you see that they get interwoven. And some people, when they get these growths on them, things start coming out of these growths that turn them into monsters, which comes in the monster part of this. And they are supposed to be like these religious demons that are supposed to be repopulating the earth. And so they go around and they go killing everybody except for who they choose. Meanwhile, it also makes some people crave brains and crave killing. So in the first section, it's very disturbing because this woman finds out that she likes to eat brains and she likes it. So she's in this relationship with this guy, but she doesn't want to infect him. And so she meets this other woman who is also infected, but they're like a higher level of this infection where sometimes you can't really tell that they're infected, but they are because they crave certain things. She craves brains. And she's not supposed to be in a relationship with anybody because of this very dangerous person she's become. And oh my god, this book gets so vulgarly sexual in a grotesque way. Like, there is a moment in this book where she is getting oral from her girlfriend, and her girlfriend went and she had this procedure done where she could like crack open her skull and like open it so that way she can dig around in her brain and get her little brain juices and eat them. Yeah, so gross, so fucking gross. And it's explained in details, and how this other woman doesn't just become like a fucking vegetable with her girlfriend like swirling her fingers around in her gray matter is beyond me, but whatever. Very, very, very disgusting. Very disgusting. And then we move into the second part where we're following this woman who is a legal prostitute. Like, brothels have become legalized because the government found that some of these infected people, they need a way to work out their dangerous tendencies and whatnot, and so they send them to brothels. And she's there with the ex-boyfriend of the lady from the first section. And he turns into one of these winged demon monstrosities, and she has to kill him. And she realizes that she gets off on killing people. So she just starts killing people and orgasming all over the place. So the second part is very vulgarly sexual and disgusting as well. At one point, she goes to a priest, I think he's a priest. Anyway, he works in a church or whatever. And he has got some kinky religious ideas. Let's say that. And that's when this book turns very disturbingly religious. Which this whole book is just disturbing. And anyway, she just kills all these people or whatnot. And she is supposed to be in charge of protecting this woman who we have yet to meet. We'll meet her in the third part. Who she is going to be like the mother who births all of these new creatures to take over the world in this religious reckoning, I guess. So in the third part, we meet this woman. She worked with the woman from the first part. So the woman from the first part is now a monster, one of these demon creatures killing everybody. The woman in the second part is supposed to take care of and like look after the woman from the third part, who is going to like repopulate the earth with all these demon babies. And she doesn't want to be a mother to all these demon things. She doesn't. So she tries to, self-eliminate herself. And it's just very, very graphic and very, very detailed. And she gets one of these growths on her breasts. She just thinks it's cancer, right? I don't know why she hasn't put two and two together, because she's seen what becomes of this. But out bursts this octopus-looking creature with human eyes that she now has to be a mother for. And it's just so gross. It's so gross. I ended up giving this book 1.5 stars. I really, really did. I will say I didn't force myself to finish it. I was genuinely curious, morbidly fascinated, as to how this story was gonna end. And I found out. But I didn't like this book. This book was disgusting, disturbing, crass, vulgar, explicit. Like, this made me think of like a horny boy who lives in a cult, his fan fiction of what could have happened to people during the pandemic. That's what this felt like. How this was in somebody's brain. This was a lot. If you like body horror, and if you don't mind some vulgar, religious, and sexual content, you might like this. I don't know. I'm not recommending you pick it up because it is disgusting. But I did read it. And I did finish it. But yeah, this was not what I thought this book was going to be about. But it was a quick and short read, so there's that, and I was morbidly curious, but like, did this make me think of my sister in any sort of way? The only thing that I could sort of relate to it is that my sister and we lived together, so we lived together when the pandemic started, and we spent a lot of time together. None of the characters made me think of my sister, because all these characters were just depraved and fucked up, and my sister's not. My sister's like a pretty emotional, good human being. None of these characters are. So, yeah, no. But moving on, I have my phone leaning against a shelf, and it's a slippery shelf, and so it keeps sliding. I am going to start listening to Sister Song by Lucy Holland. This is actually a book that my other sister gave me for Christmas, I think. Could have been. I haven't been in a mood to read physically lately, so I'm going to purchase the audio of this through Libro FM, and I'm going to start listening to this one. All I remember about this one is it is a retelling of some myth. I can't remember what, but I think it's about two sisters who have to save each other, save their country, literally don't know anything. So I will give you my thoughts on this once I have made progress in it, probably midway through, because this is a longer one. I meant to give you my thoughts to the previous book, Sister Made Monster, halfway through, but it was a really short audiobook, so I didn't. But anyway, I'm gonna get into this and see how I feel about it. I have a mid check-in update for Sister Song. So I didn't know what this book was about. For some reason, I thought it was like Indian mythology. It's not. It is a retelling of like a British folklore, I think. Can't remember the name of it. Anyway, it is about two sisters and their brother. So we have this like pagan tribe, community, whatever you call them. And within this community, there are three sisters. We have Riva, who was severely burned, and so she has the ability to heal people, but she cannot heal herself. She ends up running away because she just doesn't think that she could ever be beautiful, I guess. Okay. And she ends up being saved by this man named Tristan, and he brings her back to her tribe. And then we have her sister Celie, who can foresee future events, and she longs for adventure. And so when her sister Riva comes back, she's very jealous because she wants to be the one to go on adventures, and she wants to be the one to be rescued by the handsome guy. And she has seen herself with this Tristan guy in a vision, but she's not sure if it's her and Tristan or if she's seeing like through Riva's eyes. So she's trying to work through like what she thinks she saw and the jealousy she has there. And then we have their brother Keed, who wants to be accepted for who he is within his clan. He wants to be accepted as his parents' son instead of their daughter, which is what he was born as. So you can imagine in that time that a young woman who doesn't feel like she belongs in the body she does isn't going to be accepted. But he's battling with his own identity and how he feels and things like that. And he's actually learning that there are people who will accept him for this. And so that's where I'm at currently. They are just trying to keep their pagan religion alive while the Saxons are trying to invade all of Britain and convert everybody to Christianity. So it's a very family-centric story. The plot right now isn't too strong, but you know, I'm enjoying it for what it is. I like the family dynamics. I like the different magics that the siblings have and all that. So that's my update for this book. So today is Labor Day, so my sister and I have the day off, and we are going to head to the beach. We haven't gotten to the beach a whole lot this summer, so we're trying to take advantage of it while we can. It's pretty gloomy out right now, but it said it's supposed to get up into the 80s, so let's hope it's a good beach day. Hopefully the sun comes out more. I finished reading Sister Song by Lucy Holland, and this book took a turn for me and surprised me with how much I enjoyed it. Last time I gave you an update, I can't remember how far along I was, but I wasn't that far. And it was sitting at like a 3-star read for me because I was just like, okay, this is fine. It's just a story of like some sisters and them trying to find themselves within their kingdom, their clan. And then shortly after that, it got super interesting and I got really invested in all of these characters. So this story is based on the Scottish folklore, the Twa sisters, which I had never heard of. I had to Google to see what that was about. But it is a murder ballad almost. And in this, we were following this family. I think their name is the Catter family because he's called King Catter. Anyway, from what I gather, they probably live in like what would be Scotland. And they are trying to maintain their pagan religious ways, but things are happening that are leading the availability for Christianity to come in and push that out. Like, their crops aren't flourishing, their kingdom isn't doing the best. So when this man comes in and he starts talking about Christianity and all that and telling them that they are devil worshippers for believing in the magic of the land, it really sows that seed of doubt, and it allows for this push and pull of paganism versus Christianity. And we are following these two sisters and their brother. And when I looked at this cover, I was like, why are there only two hands if there's three siblings, you know? And then I got to the end and I figured this out, and it's quite the bittersweet ending, let me tell you, but it makes sense. I loved the family dynamics in here. I also loved the sibling relationships because they all have different relationships within just the three of them. I loved seeing how they come to understand who they are as people and the powers that they possess, and I was amazed by how my opinion of the siblings changed. Like, when I started out, I thought Riva was going to be the sibling that I connected to the most because she has survived this burning that has left her disfigured, and she doesn't really feel like she's that beautiful. She doesn't feel like her clan sees her as anything but a burden and somebody to pity, and so she runs off and she ends up falling in love with this man, Tristan, who really shows her kindness and attention in a romantic sense that she never thought she would get. So I really thought that I would vibe with her because as somebody with a disability, I've seen myself as a burden in life to many people. So I empathized with her with that, but the more I read on, the less I liked her. And I was like, girl, you are so naive. You have such low self-respect for yourself, because we find out something about this man named Tristan where they fall in love, and he's like, but we need to keep it a secret. And then she ends up pregnant with him, and he leaves, and she's just like, oh, but I love him. Meanwhile, there's this blacksmith character who has always loved her, and she's just always never given him a second thought. She always thought that he just like looked at her with pity or whatnot, and he's like, I will be here for you. I would love to marry you, be the father of your child, blah, blah, blah. And she's just like, no, I'm in love with this guy. And I'm like, girl, why are you so dumb? So I lost a lot of respect for her. Meanwhile, Cinna, who I think I mistakenly called Seely in the last checkup, it's Cinna. I thought her character was going to be the one I liked least, because she starts off as this very childish and jealous character who I was like, girl, you need to grow up. She was always jealous of Riva because Riva got to go on this adventure and find love, and that's what Cinna wanted. And Cinna was always seeing glimpses into the future of, she thought this was what was going to happen to her, and she later realizes that she's been seeing it through Riva's eyes. And so she slowly starts to realize this. She starts to understand that there were some things done when she was a child that really shaped how her family dynamics evolved and her play in that. And she's learning how to control her power that she is terrified by because she doesn't want to hurt people. And I was just like, grow up, girl. But the more I read of her, the more I gained respect for her, because she slowly started to mature. She started to see the world in logical and realistic ways, and her story was so bittersweet, let me tell you. So bittersweet. She ends up finding a sort of love, but it's at a bittersweet cost. And then we have Keed, who is the brother who is in a woman's body, and his clan doesn't understand him. Nobody in his clan really takes the time to understand how he's feeling, why he feels this way or anything like that. So he's trying to prove to his father that he is the son of this family instead of the daughter that everybody sees his outward appearance as. Meanwhile, he's falling in love and he is confused by that, but he starts to understand that there are people within his clan who are slowly starting to understand where he's coming from and realize that this is something that has been a part of him his whole life. And I really loved his character too. So I loved all these characters. They all had such unique personalities. They all had such great journeys to go on. I loved the pagan versus Christianity aspect in here and how that played out. This is set in a very early, like, Great Britain time period. So this story, in the synopsis, it says that these siblings will shape the way that Great Britain evolves. And toward the end of this, I was thrown for a loop because a name was mentioned and I was like, I know that name in history. And I had to, like, Google some things and I'm like, is this based... did this person have siblings? Is this where this story was? And I could never get a clear-cut answer on that, but in my mind, it evolved into what history would become for Great Britain. And I loved that because I love books that make me stop and think and make me Google things to understand, like, the trajectory of them. I love the audio narration of this. I thought it was really well done. Each of the siblings had their own voice and I could distinctly recall whose point of view we were in. And this just surprised me because I ended up giving it 5 stars. I did have one minor complaint about this, and that was Reva's character. I wish she wouldn't have been as naive and immature as she stayed in this book. She was the only, like, down point that I could find within this book, but it wasn't enough not to give it 5 stars. So if you are somebody who likes your historical folklore reimaginings, here you go. This has very minor, like, magical realism into it. I mean, they are pagans, and so each of the siblings has a different, like, magical ability within them. But other than that, it's a pretty much historical fiction type story. And it was a different retelling that wasn't from a Greek perspective, which I appreciated. And if you're just somebody who likes family drama, if you're looking for something with a trans main character in it, here you go. I really, really highly recommend this one. And thank you to my sister Tammy for giving me this book. Did I see any similarities in any of these siblings to my sister Lori? I would say she matches with Keith's character a lot. Just her personality. She is very ambitious. She is a responsible, like, figure within the family. She is pretty much like a glue that holds everybody in our family together. She's had to take on responsibilities that she shouldn't have to take on in life because she is one of the older siblings. And I saw a lot of Keith's personality within my sister Lori. So I did enjoy this, and I highly recommend it. I am going to start my third and final book for this vlog, and it is The Sisters of the Winterwood, I think. I have this as an ebook, but I was able to find the audiobook through Hoopla, so I'm going to listen to that so that way I can get it read quicker. This doesn't have the highest rating, so I'm going to keep my expectations low. But the only thing that I can remember about this book is I think it has some Russian or Ukrainian folklore mythology in it. Other than that, I know absolutely nothing. The thing that caught my eye about it were the animals on the covers, so we'll see what that has to do with the story.
Go do a tea around town for her birthday. Happy birthday! Happy birthday to her. Here in Philly. I tried to curl my hair and it's straight as shit. Here in Philly. It's so pretty. Look at this cute mural we found. Kind of matches my outfit for today. Waiting for our bus. When my sister says it's 0.2 miles to the friggin' ice cream shop, she's a liar and she's not to be trusted. Well, we're almost there. Bullshit. No, we're not. And it's raining.
But we're gonna get a lift. It's okay.
I'm not trusting her when she says, let's go for a walk. It's not that far.
It's not that far.
She's done this before. She's a liar. Don't trust her.
I made it 54% into The Sisters of the Winterwood, and this turns out is a YA. I did not know that. I knew nothing about this book other than I thought it had some like Ukrainian Russian mythology and it was about some sisters. I purchased it purely for this cover, so I knew nothing. But this is a YA, and it follows this Jewish family who is living in this little village next to these woods, and they live in this village that is one of the nicer ones that allows Jews and non-Jews to cohabitate, which is something in this world that is unheard of. But we find out that the mother and the father, the mother is a swan and the father is a bear. They fell in love, they had kids, but the father's father, he is sick, and so his family wants him to come back and sort of take over the mantle for his father. The only problem is his family shunned him and his wife when they got married. They refused to accept her because she is a swan shifter. So the father is like, I don't want to go back to my family, and the mother is like, we really need to. We need a safe place to raise our daughters, you know, in case something happens here. And he doesn't want to take his wife and daughters there because his family doesn't accept him. And so the wife is like, well, let me go with you. And if they accept me, then we will bring our daughters. Because he's afraid if he goes alone that they won't let him leave and come back to his family. So the parents leave their 17-year-old daughter, Liba, in charge of their, I think, 16-year-old daughter, Lena. By themselves. But before they go, their mother tells them that, Liba, you are a bear shifter like your father, and Lena, she is actually your half-sister because I had an affair. Your father found out. He killed the swan that I had the affair with. So Lena is a swan shifter, and your father has refused to turn into a bear ever since, but you will turn into a bear eventually. And they tell them this right before they leave. So these girls are just expected to, like, understand what's happening to them all on their fucking own. No guidance whatsoever. But they both start experiencing, Liba starts noticing that her hands will turn into a paw, and Lena starts experiencing like tingles on her back where feathers should grow and whatnot. But they aren't like fully shifted creatures yet. So I was expecting this story to delve more into the folklore because I do think this is based on like Ukrainian Jewish folklore, because I think their mother comes from Ukraine, their father's Jewish, so I think I got that right. I don't think I'm making that up. However, I would never have known because this really doesn't delve into the mythology or where it stems from or anything like that. This book, in 54%, has pretty much followed these two sisters who were stuck in this little village, and all they can think about is getting with boys. Kissing boys. Every now and then it'll be like, oh, this is changing in my body. I'm getting a paw and claws, or I'm feeling feathers. Boys. Or, oh, we should think about like chores around the house. Boys. All they can think about are boys because they've been very sheltered. Their father only wants them to date Jewish men, and so they've never experienced like a first kiss or anything like that, and so they're just like, we have freedom now, boys. That's all they can think about. So I've decided to DNF this book at 54% because I just cannot I cannot continue listening to this audiobook where all these girls do is care about boys and getting kisses and probably having sex. I did reach a point where there was like a murder and they were like questioning that, but I just don't care. I don't care at this point. 54% in, and all I've gotten is boys. I get it's a YA, okay, I found that out, I get it, but come on now. We gotta focus on some, like, I wanted the mythology and I wasn't getting it. Plus, the audio narration of this isn't very good because I have the hardest time differentiating Liba and Lena's characters. I'm like, okay, it's a bear, so that's Liba. And I had to associate Liba with a bear because Liba has a B in it with bear. That's how I had to remember it because I had a hard time separating the two. I will say these sisters do have very opposite personalities. Liba is the oldest one, so she is put in charge. She's the bear, so she has very negative feelings about herself. She thinks she's ugly. She thinks she's unlovable compared to her sister. She doesn't think she's as graceful. Whereas her younger sister, Lena, she is much more free-spirited. She's spontaneous. She's like, let's try this. Let's do this. Let's go with the flow and all this jazz. So they have very separate personalities. Now, do I see any similarities with my sister Lori? I would say she has like a mixture of both. She is one of the older siblings who has had responsibilities thrown at her, like I said before, that she shouldn't have had. I also see a little bit of her in Lena as well because she is a little bit more spontaneous than, say, I am. I'm not a very spontaneous person. I'm a schedule list keeper. I need to be mentally prepared to do this before I do it type of thing. Whereas my sister's like, yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. Let's go here. Let's try this, blah, blah, blah. So I see a little bit of both of her in there. Now, as far as like what my sister was like when she was a teenager, I couldn't tell you if my sister was as horny and hung up on boys as these two characters are because I did not know my sister when she was a teenager. When my sister was 17, I was 4. So I have no cognitive memories of growing up with my sister. So I could not tell you if my sister was that bad as a teenager. Maybe she was because I'm pretty sure she grew up in a lot stricter household than I did. Pretty sure she probably wasn't allowed to date or anything like that. So maybe she was. Maybe when she got that first burst of freedom, she was a freaky little thing. I think I missed out on the horny, hormonal, boy crazy teen stage because my parents didn't set rules for me. My parents didn't tell me I couldn't do this. My parents didn't tell me you can't date. My parents didn't tell me you can't go hang over at a friend's house. I did that. So I skipped out on that whole phase. I knew what sex was pretty early on. My mom talked to me about sex. I grew up on a farm, so I knew what sex was. I had older siblings who told me what sex was. So my sister and I, total opposite beings. We grew up in very different households, which reflects in our personalities probably. So I see us in that dynamic within these sisters. My sister is the very optimistic, sunshiny Sally type, and I'm the most pessimistic Molly Moonshine, I guess. I think that's why we mesh well when we have lived together as adults. So yeah, that's where I see my sister and our relationship dynamics compared to Liba and Lena. But yeah, I just could not continue reading this audiobook because I was just like, if I have to sit through one more chapter of, oh my god, boys, one more time, I'm going to DNF this audiobook. That's what I'm going to do. And I did. Okay. So that is it for this reading vlog. I found one book that I absolutely loved, which was Sister Song. I read one book that I did not enjoy, but I was so morbidly fascinated by it, which was Sister Made Monster, which I gave 1.5 stars. So you know, if I DNF'd The Sisters of the Winterwood and gave Sister Made Monster 1 star, I can do with the disgusting, depraved, fucked up stories, but God, I cannot deal with horny, hormonal teenagers. I can't. But I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for sticking with me. Let me know down in the comments, have you read any of these books? Will you read any of these books and what your thoughts are? But if you don't want to comment that but would like to let me know that you made it to the end of this vlog, could you leave my sister a birthday cake emoji and wish her happy birthday down in the comments? But I'm going to end this vlog with a happy birthday song that everybody on the Tea Around Town bus sang to a lot of the people who had birthdays on that bus. A lot of people were celebrating. So here's a happy birthday song for my sister, and thanks for watching. Bye. Happy birthday, sis. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday.